Welcome to Tritiyo Matra. The relationship between Bangladesh and Palestine to grow in 1973 when Bangladesh supported the Palestinians during the Yom Kippur War or October War. The first high-level meeting between the two countries took place soon after in 1974 when Yasser Arafat met Prime Minister Sheikh Mujibur Rahman in Lahore. To discuss the history and future of Bangladesh's relation to Palestine, we have with us Mr. Yousef S.Y. Ramadan, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the State of Palestine to Bangladesh. Mr. Yousef has previously worked in different roles in UAE, China, Zimbabwe, North Korea, and Afghanistan. Mr. Ambassador, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Let me start with this very simple question. You are the Palestinian ambassador in Bangladesh, but you are not a citizen of Palestine. How come?
That's a nice question. Nobody has asked me this question. Well, good evening to your viewers. Assalamu alaikum to everybody. I'm grateful to be guest of your show, your famous show. This is very strange. You have 15 million Palestinians in and outside Palestine. 9 million out of those 15 million are refugees, just like me. People like me who were born as a refugee, we lived in different places in the world, mainly close to Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, or Egypt, because our parents were driven out by force in 1948 from their homes, villages, and town, and they were extradited to the surrounding area of Palestine. So I was born in Lebanon, like others, and I have a travel document, Lebanese travel document, actually, not a passport. In 1993, when we signed the Oslo Accord with Israel, we were supposed to apply for citizenship, which we did apply. But unfortunately, it's Israel who decides if you are accepted as a Palestinian or not. So they rejected me. And that's why I carry the Palestinian passport for external use only. I can travel to the whole world except to Palestine. If I want to go to Palestine, I need permission from the occupying power, Israeli, which they don't really give. I had a chance once in my life to visit Palestine, only once, 21 years ago. And since then, I wasn't able to put my foot to step to Palestine.
So what's the reason?
The reason is the occupation, not only to me. What they're doing to me is something small, but what they're doing to the people in Palestine are really, it's unhuman. It's inhuman. The meaning of all that is they want to drive as much as possible from the Palestinian inside the occupied territory out of the occupied territory, because they want an empty Palestine so they can control it all. And this is their policy, is going on since 1948, not from today. They did it forcibly in 1947, 46, 47, and 48, and now they're doing it in a different way. And this is one of the ways. We'll talk, I think, we'll have a chance to talk later in details about how Palestinians are being treated in Palestine.
So, Mr. Ambassador, you have been working in Bangladesh since 2014. We'd like to hear your experience in Bangladesh during this long journey. How did you find Bangladesh?
Well, Bangladesh, first of all, I never felt that I'm a stranger in Bangladesh, never. Because I had the chance to meet Bangladeshi before, in the maybe early 80s. So when I came to Bangladesh, it was my number 7 country, actually. And I find the people are very much hospitable people. They have a soft corner for the Palestinian, and I felt that. So that's why you don't feel a stranger in Bangladesh. You feel at home, you feel among your brothers, among your sisters, among your parents, and you never feel that you're a stranger. I like the country very much. Of course, what makes it interesting for me is that I see the development in all aspects are taking place in every part of Bangladesh. And this is cherishing my heart, really. I enjoy that very much. Because we want what's best for the people of Bangladesh. For what the people of Bangladesh has done for Palestine is tremendous support. We will never forget that. So my idea of Bangladesh is a country that I will never wanted to leave it.
And you have diversified experiences as a diplomat, working on different countries since 1983. During this long period of time, have you had to face discrimination or any unwanted occurrence because of your nationality?
I won't put it this way exactly, discrimination, but normally when we as a diplomat work in another countries which have different culture and different tradition, we might find some kind of difficulties because we interpret things different way than they interpret it. So it takes some time to understand those host countries. But in fact, as racism or this kind of discrimination, not really, no. We were welcomed in most or all the country that I served in.
And from your observation, what has been the perspective of the people of Palestine regarding Bangladesh and Bangladeshi people?
Oh, you are icon for us. I mean, we, as you just mentioned, that in 1973, when you were only 2 years old country, you sent a team to support us during the October War. And of course, before that, we read and heard a lot of of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, his struggle and so on, and the liberation and the independence of 1971. At that time, for the viewer to understand, we did not have any entity. The PLO was not recognized at that time as the sole legitimate representative. So we have no entity to express our support to you or recognize Bangladesh. But although the Fatah movement, which was the biggest movement at that time, did make the recognition to Bangladesh by Yasser Arafat. PLO was formed in 1974, and immediately Bangladesh recognized the PLO, and there was a meeting took place in Lahore in February between Bangabandhu and Yasser Arafat, and that was the first meeting took place. Now the people of Palestine, they never forget the 1973 support, the 1974 people of Bangladesh came, volunteers, to help the Palestinian, to fight with the Palestinian. That's also counted. Bangladesh recognized the PLO in 1974. Bangladesh gave the Palestinian a scholarship for the student to come and study in Bangladesh in different fields, military and civilian. A land was given to the Palestinian free in Bangladesh to build their embassies, which we did. The tremendous support that we have from Bangladesh in the international forums, United Nations and other organizations, is tremendous, still going on until today. The donation given from the people of Bangladesh to the Palestinian people also is well recognized. And over all that, there's one important issue here, very important. Bangladesh still does not recognize Israel, and reiterated many times that it will not recognize. Bangladesh will never recognize Israel as long as the Palestinian does not have their independent state, does not have a sovereign independent state. And that is really great. Well, it's happening at the same time when some Arab countries are shifting their position to recognize Israel. Still Bangladesh is holding to that, and they don't have any kind of relation with Israel, not commercial, nothing at all. And that is a great support. So all that make the Palestinian very, very grateful and thankful and feel in debt to the people of Bangladesh. By the way, we have in 2017, just to show a respect to Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, we have named one of the biggest street in Palestine after Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. It's a big one, huge street, and this is just to show our respect to him and to the people of Bangladesh.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Yousef Ramadan. Do you see the potential to increase the trade between Bangladesh and Palestine?
It's our dream to do that. It's really our dream, because we'll be at least benefiting, and at the same time we'll be paying part of the debt that we have for you. But the problem is, the situation in Palestine is different. We are a state under occupation, ruled by occupation, by racist occupation. And when we wanted to import anything, we have to get a permission first from the Israeli government, and most of the time it's rejected. So when we import goods from Bangladesh, we have to do it through Jordan most of the time. We import to Jordan, and then we get it from Jordan to Palestine. But we are doing well about related especially to garments. Most of our garments are imported from Bangladesh, yes. We try to do through the pharmaceutical, but Israel will not allow that. They will not allow us to do that. But I hope in the future we will be able to increase the volume of trade.
You spoke up when Bangladesh removed the observation, all countries except Israel, from its passport. Are you satisfied with the foreign minister's explanation for the reason?
That was painful moment, in fact. Bangladesh, it was one of the 13 countries in the world which still keep this caveat in their passport. Of course, Bangladesh is a sovereign country. They have the right to do whatever they wish. But the timing was not correct. That thing happened in May last year during the Israeli aggression on Gaza. After the killing of around 86 Palestinian child were killed in Palestine, below 12 years old. 900 civilians also died. And then came the news. So that was not the right moment, actually. We, of course, requested the concerned authority to delay this process, which they really did delay the process, because we don't want it to look, it was like a gift to the other party, because Israel is very happy to see that. But finally, anyway, the relation that we have between Palestine and Bangladesh goes beyond that.
And Ambassador, since the war began in Ukraine, we have been hearing news of economic hardship increasing among the people of Palestine. What has been the overall effect of the war in Ukraine on the economy of Palestine?
Well, the economy of Palestine has been facing difficulty much before the Ukrainian war, much before. Because the system, as I said, in Palestine, our government depend on the taxes and the donation from different countries, Arab, Europe, and American, Japanese, Chinese, so on. But our main income is from the taxes that we collect from the people. Since we are not allowed to have our own seaport or our own airport, so all our products is being imported through the Israeli ports. They collect the taxes on our behalf, and they're supposed to pay this money back to us. Of course, they charge us certain percentage as a service charges and service fees. But what the Israelis do, instead of giving this money to us, they don't. From time to time, for 1 year or 2 years, they don't give us the money. So we have difficulties in that. It's not like the difficulty because of the Ukrainian war. No, it's much, much before. And it will continue because Israel will give us nothing unless if we give something in return. And that thing we can never give the Israeli in return, because they want lands, they want us to change our position from the two-state solution, and we will not accept that. We will not sell, because especially Jerusalem is not for sale. We will not sell land, we will not sell Jerusalem, we will not sell our attitude, not our dignity, and not the prosperation of the people of Palestine.
Many have pointed out the double standard in the West regarding the wide-scale Western support of Ukraine in their struggle against their oppressors, while subsequently ignoring the struggle of people outside Europe, such as the ongoing injustices being committed against the people of Palestine. What is your perspective on this matter?
This has been going on for 7 decades. The Western hypocrisy, especially the American hypocrisy. We have suffered as a refugee from 1948. And the people of Palestine who's living in Palestine today has been suffering since 1967, since the second occupation take place. And that suffering is taking place before the rest of the world. The rest of the world can see that, witness that, because they have their reporters there. But nothing has been said, nothing at all. All the killing taking places, demolishing the houses of the Palestinian there, the checkpoints that we have in Palestine, several hundred checkpoints that we have in Palestine, the suffering of the Palestinian people, which been taking place for 7 decades, no other people has suffered. And the world are watching that. And they're saying nothing to Israel, nothing at all. Instead of saying something to Israel or trying to punish Israel or trying to take certain measures, they're supporting Israel in all fields. They give Israel money, they give Israel weapons, they give Israel media support, they give Israel everything. Now, how come when the issue came to Ukraine, the situation has changed? So now the world can witness and see the difference. The people who did not heard our cry for 70 years, today they can see it by the hypocrisy of the West related to Ukraine. Of course, we don't support wars. We don't support bloodsheds at all. We're against it. Wherever it happens, for it happens in Europe or in the Middle East, wherever it happens, we're against it. The principle, we're against that principle. But it's happening, and the world are seeing the different reaction of the West toward Ukraine from the Palestinian. The Palestinian people are shot dead in front, recorded by cameras, and seen in the West. What are the West doing? Nothing, putting pressure on us. They're putting more and more pressure on us. Even when they give us donation money, they donate money, they put pressure on us to change some of our policies.
Ambassador, on 11th May, Palestinian-American journalist Shirin Abu Akleh was shot and killed. Now we are hearing that Israel will not conduct a criminal inquiry into the matter. How does the government of Palestine wish to proceed?
Well, the Palestinian, well, of course, Shirin was a tragedy. She was consider her as a national hero. We consider her as the voice of Palestine, actually, and she was the voice of Palestine for 25 years. We made the investigation, and we have sent the record, the result, to the ICC, to the International Criminal Court already, and we asked the International to take action related to this issue. We gave a copy to the American, because Shirin was also American-Palestinian. We gave a copy, and we gave another copy of the investigation result to Al Jazeera also, and Qatar. But killing Shirin Abu Akleh the way it happens, by a sniper, it means deliberately they want to kill her, not to paralyze her, to kill her, because they shot her exactly under the ear. And they know that the whole world is going to see that, is going to witness that. What does that mean? When you're able to do that, and you know the world is going to find out, and you don't care, that means that you're sending a clear message to the world that we can do whatever we want with those Palestinian people, and you, international community, can do nothing about it, like you did nothing before. So this kind of policy, this kind of racist policy that Israel are following and the world are watching, it's a big shame on the international community. It's a shame on the American. She was a citizen of Palestine, and she was a citizen of America. She was a human being.
Yeah, of course.
For all that.
That's
She's a human being.
Yeah.
And she was reporting the crime of the Israeli occupation against the Palestinian people. She was robbing or stealing or spying, whatever, right? And yet, we haven't heard really the voice that we're supposed to hear from the American. Not even a condemnation to the Israeli until now. If that thing happened in Ukraine by the Russian, what would happen? This is the question. Shireen Abakli was one case out of thousands of cases of the Palestinian people. Thousands. And nothing has been happening. Nothing. So the suffering of the Palestinian people is unbearable. Unbearable suffering.
Since the 1970s, as you mentioned earlier, there have been efforts to find terms upon which peace can be agreed to in the Palestine-Israel conflict. What is the current status of the roadmap to peace? Roadmap to begin with?
Well, since that time and before that, there was 131 UN Security Council resolution related to the Israeli-Arab conflict. Most of it was related to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. None of it was implemented by Israel. None of those resolutions. Plus you have so many resolutions by the General Assembly. The same thing. Israel is above the law, is acting above the law. Israel does not prove to the world. Israel does not want peace. They want to grab land. They want to control us. They want to treat us as slaves. And we reject that. John Kerry, before he left, 2 months before he left the State Department as a Secretary of State, he clearly pointed out in a press conference that Israel is jeopardizing the peace process. The building of settlements, the expansion of settlements in the occupied territory of the Palestinian land is the biggest obstacle to make peace in the Middle East. Not me. He was saying that. He was right. Israel themselves, Israeli Prime Minister, previous one Benjamin Netanyahu, and Bennett, today's Prime Minister of Israel. Both of them, they clearly say that there is no state for the Palestinians. There will be some kind of an entity for them in certain area where they can have their own independent economic system. That's it. But we have signed before in 1993 on a Palestinian state between Yasser Arafat and Rabin at that time, who was killed by the Israeli. As you know, he was the Israeli Prime Minister, but he wanted to make peace really. And he was a strong man, ex-general, popular man. And when we were almost signing the peace, he was killed by one of their hardliners. And there are too many these days. So, we the Palestinian, the historical Palestine is our land. Everybody knows that before 1948 there was nothing called Israel. It was all Palestine, Palestinian land. Now when we started this process, peace process, we were engaged in the peace process. We were really keen to establish peace. We were really sincere to establish peace. And we did not ask for absolute justice. We asked for possible justice. The possible justice is the territory which was occupied in 1967, which represent, by the way, 22% of the historical Palestine. Only 22%. And the rest is for Israel. Even though we accept that, but yet Israel still rejecting the idea of state for the Palestinians.
What's about two-state formula? Two-state formula.
This is what we were working for, two-state formula, two-state solution. That we will have the state of the 22% of Palestine, which is West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem, which is a small part of the whole Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, because of Al-Aqsa Mosque is there, because it's our capital since ages. But they don't want to give this land to us. They reject. And, you know, a power who kill people in front of cameras can do anything, can reject anything. They're the only country in the world who can say no anytime they want and yes anytime they want without anybody questioning them. They can make the right wrong and the wrong right. They can twist history, they can fabricate, they can do anything they want. And the world are watching that. It's really sad. It's really very, very sad.
Mr. Yousef Ramadan, for decades now, there has not been peace in the lives of Palestinians. We'd like to know from you how might a Palestinian's normal day looks like in Palestine, and how does the people of Palestine cope up with the situation?
I think it's important for the viewer to understand that when you hear the story of Palestine, we control 15% of Palestine only, which is 3,700 square kilometers in West Bank. From the top north we have Jenin, from south we have Hebron. 16 major cities and 438 villages with about 3.5 million people living in this territory. In this area we have 593 checkpoints, Israeli checkpoints. Checkpoints in every village, checkpoints in every entrance of cities. So when you want to travel from one city to another, you have to go to at least 10 or 20 or 30 checkpoints, and every checkpoint you have to stop. There they have to check your car, they have to check you, search you. So you need, for a 20-kilometer drive, you need to spend at least 2 to 3 to 4 hours. So this is one of the, and that including the ambulances. When ambulances pass through the checkpoint, ambulances are stopped, although they know it's either a pregnant woman or there is an old man who needs a hospital or somebody is injured. Still they will stop the ambulances for hours. And sometimes people die in the ambulances before they reach the hospital. Another more important issue, which is common in Palestine, many ladies in labor, they give birth in checkpoints because the Israeli will not allow them to pass. Many. And cameras are there to see, to watch, to record. She's crying and shouting from pain while the Israeli soldiers are laughing, doing nothing. So I don't know what kind of a human being they are. I really don't know. I cannot understand that. I mean, the Nazis didn't do that. Nazi in the Second World War, they did not do that. Situation is difficult. Economic situation is also difficult. Very difficult. And if they can, the Israel have the right to demolish any house. Over that, you have to pay for that. They demolish your house and you have to pay for the bulldozer when they come to demolish your house. Without any reason. It's not necessary you should have a reason or not. And that all is happening because they want you to get out of the land. This is the system. That's how.
Ambassador, as you mentioned earlier, Bangladeshi volunteers have fought side by side with Palestinians going back to the 1980s. Many Bangladeshi freedom fighters sacrificed their lives for the sovereignty of Palestine.
True.
What is your experience been regarding Bangladeshi participation in the conflicts?
Bangladeshi volunteers start coming from 1974. The first batch came in 1974. Second one was 1976, and they continued to arrive till 1981 to Lebanon. Total number, they were approximately around 600 people who came, which we know about, 600 people. And I had the chance to meet them actually in 1981. I had a chance to meet them and talk to them and coffee and tea with them and ask them a few questions.
Accidentally, you got the chance?
Yes, because I was passing from an area called Az-Zahrani. Maybe if they hear me now, they know it's Az-Zahrani. It's in the south part of Lebanon. They have a base there. It's called the Bengal base. And then I passed by, and then I stopped by. I went to them, and I was asking the same question: what are you doing here? And why did you come here? I mean, you know you could die anytime. I said, yeah, we know, but we will die shaheed. And this is the time when I was really shocked. Why do you think you'll die shaheed? He said, because we want to come, we want to fight, and we want to liberate Al-Quds, Jerusalem. Because Jerusalem is the Isra and Mi'raj. Jerusalem is our first Qibla as Muslim. We should all fight, and they gave me a long lecture. From that day, I was still maybe 19 years old or 20 years old. From that day, I have a special respect for the people of Bangladesh. Very special respect until this moment.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Councillor Muhammad Al-Atiq chairs the affairs of the Permanent Mission of Saudi Arabia to the UN. During a speech at a UN Security Council session on April, reaffirmed to the UN its stance over Palestine, calling for end to the Israeli occupation, the establishment of an independent Palestine state with Jerusalem as its capital, and the guaranteed right of return for refugees. Are you satisfied with the current level of initiative by the Saudi-led blocs regarding the issue?
This is what I just mentioned exactly, the possible justice. That's what we asked for. This is part of the Arab initiative, which took place in Beirut in the summit, Arab summit in 2002. And all the Arab has agreed upon that this is the possible justice for the Palestinian to have their own independent state in the occupied territory of 1967, including East Jerusalem as the capital, the return of the refugees like me. Then I will become a citizen at that time. I have the right to be a citizen of Palestine at that time. And for that, we will recognize Israel on return, we'll recognize Israel and we'll live in peace altogether in the Middle East. So he's reiterating the Arab initiative, which we fully support. Fully support. The world supported actually the initiative. The Quartet supported the initiative. The Americans themselves supported the initiative. But Israel is the only country rejected the initiative. See, if you want to make peace, if we want to make really peace, if we're, it's not difficult at all. It's not difficult at all. But the world has to unite. The Western country, America mainly, the US, has to take a decision that enough is enough. It's time for the Palestinian to live as a human being on their territory. If they decided to do that and they impose this policy, this righteous policy in Israel, peace will happen within months, not years.
So, Ambassador, in your opinion, what is the current role of Bangladesh in the broader Muslim world?
Bangladesh is playing a very important role in the Muslim world. You know, Bangladesh is the third largest Muslim country, number 3. And it's very active, especially in OIC. And I'm sure they are very much keen. I know the leader of Bangladesh, they are keen to make some kind of unity among Muslim people. But unfortunately, we have a say in Arabic. It says, a single hand cannot clap. So Bangladesh alone cannot do much. Cannot do much. We need other countries to really do what the Muslim people deserve. We don't want to make something like NATO pact. We're not interested in war as a Muslim. What we're interested in that, let's invest in each other's. I invest in your country, you invest in my country. I have facilities in your country, you have facilities in my country. Okay? Why should I take all the wealth I have and put it somewhere else outside the Muslim world? It should be in the Muslim world. Why should I have all these genius people in my country goes to America or to UK, and why don't I keep them in one of those countries? Why don't we have a proper research centers? Why we are nothing but a consumers to the world? We are 1.8 billion people. right? 1.8 billion. Do you know that we have, the Muslim countries, we have 70% of the world reserves of gas. 70%. We have 60% of the oil reserve, the Muslim. And we only represent 23% of the world population. Okay? And look what we have. So we have much, much more than the rest of the world have. But what is our real weight in the international in the international stage?
As you said before, it's zero.
Is nothing. So what we want is we want some kind of a unity so we can earn the respects of the Western world and the rest of the world. We can be a huge economy. We can be a very powerful. Our word will be heard properly and will be taken under consideration. And the countries who doesn't like us, they will think twice if they want to harm us in any way. They'll think twice. Look at the Rohingya issue. Isn't it painful? Why? Why they are driven out of the country? Let's be clear. Because they are a Muslim. And what did the Muslim world did for them? Nothing. Forget about the few tons of rice and sugar and dates and whatever they send. But you, the people of Bangladesh and the government of Bangladesh, are holding the responsibility, right, for them. You're taking care of them. You kept alone in this. Why?
So, we are almost at the end of the program. So, any final words for the viewers from your side?
Of course, I won't miss this opportunity. I've been in your country for 7 years. This is my 8th years. I would love to stay longer time because, as I said, I really feel between my people. I don't feel stranger at all. I am very, very grateful to your help, to your support, to your firm position to stand with your brothers and sisters in Palestine. And the donation you have made last year and in 2014 for the people of Palestine, it will always be written in the history, in gold letters, in the history of the Palestinian. And we will always believe that we have brothers and sisters in Bangladesh are backing us up. We also highly appreciate the strong support of the government of Sheikh Hasina, her father before, and she continued to support Palestine in all forms. We wanted to see Bangladesh strong, powerful. We wanted to see the people of Bangladesh prospering better and better every day. And we hope the best. We hope stability and security will remain the main issue in Bangladesh, and may Allah protect Bangladesh and the people of Bangladesh.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Yousef S. Ramadan, for your time and thought. Indeed, this was a very fascinating discussion. Dear viewers, nowadays relations between Bangladesh and Palestine are cordial. Bangladesh is a strong and consistent advocate for an independent Palestinian state and is firmly opposed to Israeli occupation. Bangladesh also has a complete ban on trade with Israel and does not have any diplomatic relations with Israel. We support the establishment of a Palestinian state and hope that such conditions are met in a manner that is diplomatic and non-violent while still ensuring the rights and sovereignty of the Palestinian people. Thanks for being with us. Thanks indeed.